that wraps up our first hour of the event, which was all the sort of these rapid fire keynote talks. Hopefully, I think painted with broad strokes a little bit of all the opportunity and excitement happening around AI. Now we're actually going to shift to the second part of our schedule, which is the next 2 hours. We have 4 demos in our show and tell portion. And the first one here, Marcos Voltolini, who just joined me, another old friend. I'm going to introduce him a little bit. But also I wanted to mention that for this portion, what we're also going to have is we're going to have a live audience. I think there's about 20 people, 30 people or so. I think almost everyone here is sort of a CTO and a founder or sort of a VP of engineering at a different startup in Latin America. And the idea here is that for each of the demos, we've separated 25, 30-minute slots. And the idea is to really show rather than tell more. And what I've asked each of the presenters is to maybe take the first 20, max 25 minutes to do the presentation. And then we'll have another 5-10 minutes for Q&A from the live audience. And I think we'll also obviously be looking at a lot of the questions that people are writing in. I was able to pull in a couple of them for Sam. I noticed that Anna did the same thing with Serkan. So keep writing them in, and I think we'll try to pick them out to try to integrate them into the discussion. What I do want to ask for the live audience, as soon as you guys start joining us any moment now, is that whenever you do have a question, just press the button to raise your hand, because then that way Marcos can organize this a little bit better in terms of calling for folks. So everyone in the live audience, what I would suggest is that you go to your email, and you should have a new link that you can click there to join again as a speaker, and then you'll be in the live audience like Rafael, Pedro, and Luis have all already done. So now on to Marcos. Marcos Voltolini, I met him maybe almost like 10 years ago at this point. Time flies. He was actually my wife's co-founder in a dating app that they built based out of Rio de Janeiro. Back in the day, they were applying a lot of data science to do matching and the different algorithms into the dating space. So what better way of using computer science than to find love or whatever else people are doing on dating apps. And I think that Marcos then went on to move to Silicon Valley. He built this very exciting company with another buddy of mine, where they were actually using a lot of machine learning to auto-generate content at scale. So a lot of the stuff that we see today with ChatGPT, they were doing this for local news stories, basically running these machine learning models and creating hundreds of thousands millions of articles every single day for every little micro neighborhood. So he did that. That company was actually eventually acquired by Nextdoor, which is a large sort of local social network that I think eventually went public. It's a public company now. And Marcos stayed there for a few years, leading some of the engineering and data teams there. And then he moved back to Brazil. Thank you. I think it's always great seeing people coming back to your home countries. And he was one of the co-founders and was the CTO leading the engineering team at Mercê do Bairro, another startup based out of São Paulo. And through that was just exploring a lot of AI applications in Latin America. So he's going to do the first demo and show us a little bit of how they've been using it there and hopefully inspire some ideas. And I think for everyone in the audience here, just remember to raise your hand. Thank you. To you, Marcos.
Awesome. Thanks, Julio. Let me start sharing my screen. Let's see. Search you. I think it's this one. Share. Cool. Hopefully everyone is seeing my screen now. But just to set the stage, basically the idea for, like Julio mentioned, right? The next 2 hours is for us to basically discuss how these new models these new technologies are being applied, especially in software development, and also a little bit how they are being applied in products. So my demo will be focused heavily on how at Mercê we are using Copilot and a few new tools to explore data. After me, João from Trybe will go very in depth on how they are using Copilot for software development. Later, Marcelo will discuss a little bit about, okay, we have like these tools like Copilot, but what about the models behind the scenes? how can we apply them to real world products. They're already doing that, and he has like a few awesome examples. And to finish the demo, Sebastian will talk a little bit about, okay, now we have like these awesome new tools that help us with software development. Things that before could take like days to develop, now may take a few hours, right? And he'll like show like a very real example of like something that happened with him. He had an idea, in a few hours, something that would take days was deployed to production, right? So, and basically the goal is to like do this demo in like 20, 25 minutes, and then use the last 5-10 minutes for discussions and questions. So I'll be really focused on this demo for now, so I'll not answer any questions now, but we'll definitely have time to do that later. So basically what you are seeing here on my screen, just like to give like a little bit of overview to everyone, is basically a tool. It's basically a Jupyter notebook that's usually used for data science and for machine learning engineering. You may have seen this if you explored these new models. Usually a model comes with like its own notebook explaining how to use it. So it's basically like a place where you can do simple stuff like, okay, let's do 2 + 2, you have like a 4. And you, of course, you can write code, right? So let's see, print, hello, and you have like some Python code, and it just runs, right? So how can we use these new tools that are available? Everyone is talking about Copilot to help with software development, right? In the past, you had tools, for example, IntelliSense from Microsoft, right? So you start writing something and it gives you a few suggestions, right? This is not powered by AI, but it helps you develop code. The tools nowadays, especially like something like Copilot, allows you to do stuff like, instead of just writing code, of course, you can still write code, but you can ask the tool to write code for you. So for example, with Copilot, and Copilot is already running here, I can say stuff like, okay, write a function to sum 2 numbers, right? And you see that it basically started writing a function that's kind of like this grayed out code that I can press tab and it basically completes. I can press again, return A plus B. So basically it wrote the function I wanted, right? Let's see if it works. 2 + 3 = 5. Okay, yeah, it's working. And of course, you can do like more complex stuff, right? So, okay, that was like a very basic example. Let's do something a little bit fancier. So plot a graph of a sine wave, let's say. Let's see what it does. So it will first like import plotting library. Okay, that makes sense. Later it will import numeric library to do numeric stuff in Python. Okay. It will create the values for X, and it will create the values for Y, basically applying the sine function against X, and then it will plot X and Y, right? It wrote the entire code for me, and basically here I have like a sine wave, and basically I just had to be like the pilot where Copilot is giving me the directions and I was just pressing tab, right? So this is awesome. You can do stuff like this nowadays, and it's very simple to start. So if you are a developer, or even if you are not a developer, I recommend, this is like a very interesting way of like learning how to code. Here at Mercê, like when Copilot was released back, I think it was like June or July last year, we were basically using from day one, and especially using for data science. So in data science at Mercê, we use a library called pandas. So I'll write a little bit of code here just to start. Let me import pandas as PG. And pandas, just to give you an overview, pandas is like a Python library that helps you to manipulate data, explore data. You do everything in memory, do things like pretty fast. So it's like a very fast way of exploring things. And something we do, and like of course, like any tech company, you probably have like a lot of data, you have a lot of databases. So what we'll do here is tell Copilot first, let me tell Copilot where is my database, right? So I start writing a variable called database URL, right? And if you see, it suggests me where I should get the value for that variable. It's telling me like, this variable is probably like in an environment variable. It's probably called database URL. The model behind Copilot was trained on a bunch of these examples, and usually how people do things like this. And it's true, it's how I did it, so it makes sense. And after that, I can, okay, how can I use pandas to query my database? I'll start asking, okay, I want to get, let me write as a comment, get all orders from the database. Just that, I just ask, let's see what it does. So basically it suggested me this code. So it will add to a variable called df, a SQL query, select from orders. So it's assuming that I have like a table called orders. It doesn't know, it's assuming, and it's assuming correctly I have that table. And it will request against this database URL, right? So if I show this df variable, what it's doing is like it's requesting my database, and now I have like this my entire data set of orders. Just like a disclaimer here, this is not real data from Mercê, but it looks very closely to this, right? Okay, so now I have like my entire all my orders here in this notebook. So let's continue exploring this data, right? So for example, now that I have this data here, I can ask, okay, how many orders are there, right? I just want to do something simple. So it suggests me this, and when I run, okay, I have 23,000 orders in the database. That's correct, that makes sense. Let's get a little bit fancier. So let's ask, how many orders in 2022? Let's see what it does. So basically, if you know pandas, it's basically like filtering out, filtering the data frame based on this column order date in the year 2022. Seems correct, right? Let's run this code. Okay, we have an issue. The issue is I don't have the column order date. That's interesting. So if I look here at my table, the name of the column that I'm looking for is created date. So what is interesting about these models and the model that Copilot is running on is that they need context, right? They need to know, they need to have an idea what you are talking about for you to be able to like ask questions and write stuff against it. In this case, Copilot doesn't have the context of what is the result of the code that was executed. It only has the context of the code that was written. So that's why it doesn't know that I have this column called created dates. So a lot of times for Copilot, you kind of like need to nudge it a little bit. So for example, okay, this is wrong, but if I say, please use the column created dates. And just like an interesting tip here, if you say please, usually the model works better. It's kind of like a joke, but better to like be polite. So let's do that. Okay. Now, if you look at what it did, basically did like a created date. It's transforming the column created date to date time. It's getting a year from created dates, and it's filtering df based on the year and getting the result. Let's see what happens. Okay, 23,000 is the same result as before. Is that correct? Yes. Basically, the orders are only from 2022. So it's correct. So let's get like a little bit more specific. Let's get, what about December 2022? Let's see what happens. So it's getting the df shape 0, and it's only doing that. So if you look at it, it made a mistake now. So it was not able to understand that I was looking for this date, this specific month, right? And that's very interesting. Let's see if I can nudge it to get the right answer. So, okay, what about December 22? I'll say again, please use the column created date again. Let's see what it does. So now it's getting the month from created date and having like a shape 0. So now it got correctly. So if you saw what I did, I had to nudge it to the right answer, right? So I had to understand what it was doing. So I had to understand the code to be able to get to the right answer. So what Jerome was saying before about like, okay, you always need like a developer. It's very true, at least for now, right? So when I was doing this, I basically realized that a lot of this stuff, for example, like this context, getting this context from code and not getting the context from explicitly the data I have here, it's kind of like a lost opportunity, right? Like Copilot could get that information, but one of the problems with that is what I was saying before, the context. And one of the main limitations of this technology is the context size. It's basically the amount of information in the kind of like short-term memory these models can use. It's basically, okay, what I wrote before, how much of that it can use. And there are like fancy engineering ways of like going around that problem. But something that happened a few months ago was the release of GPT-4. It's not just like a better model compared to ChatGPT or GPT-3, but it also has like a bigger context. It has two versions, one version that's like 8,000 tokens. A token you can think about like as part of like a word is like around like an average out of like 3/4 of a word. They released a version that's with like 8,000 tokens. That's like already twice of what GPT-3 is and ChatGPT is, or GPT 3.5. And they released a version with 32,000 tokens as context. So it's like 8 times bigger. And for you to have an idea, it's basically around 50 pages of like a PDF. So imagine that like a model like this can process 50 pages of PDF that you can write and ask questions about. So I was basically making this demo and like trying things out like over the weekend, and I realized, you know what? I just got access to GPT-4 32K in early preview. Let's create a tool that instead of like me using Copilot, I will use this tool to write code using a notebook. And basically, I think like one of the interesting things that, and even Sebastian will go more in depth, is that nowadays you can like have this idea and write something just to test super fast. So basically I had this idea about this tool that basically gets the entire context of this notebook. And I wrote that in a matter of like about half an hour, between half an hour and 1 hour. And I will show you here it working. Let me just put like some boilerplate here in case like I need to debug some stuff. But basically what I will do is I'll import the tool I created. Basically I need to set just the file name it will use to process. It's the Atlantico. Yep, that's it. And basically what this tool does is it creates kind of like this magic keyword called ask. And from now on, I can ask questions about this notebook, right? So before with ChatGPT, I couldn't ask about this stuff. It didn't understand anything that was going on here. Now I can. So the first thing I would do is, can you explain to me all the columns in the table orders? Let's see what it does. So basically what's doing here, it's getting this entire notebook, creating a context for it, and at the end, like asking this question and API, right? And then I'm basically streaming the result of the API to this notebook. If you want to know, like just like side note, this is the code. It's about 200 lines of code. It's not complex at all, but it's super ugly. So, but okay, so I had to explain all the columns in the table orders. So basically what it did, it got this information here. And from the name of the column and from the information I had here, it basically explained to me what each columns mean. So let's see here, ID is a unique identifier for each order, order number, okay, status, the current status of the order, status of the order, created date, okay. All seems okay, at least from the context it has, and like nothing like too off from what I would expect. So let's continue exploring this data, right? So can you show me in a table my monthly revenue and number of orders? Let's see, can you show me a table? Yeah, let's see what it does. So it's doing, oh, error requesting GPT. GPT is not happy with me today, but okay, now it's going. Basically, it's doing the same. And now it has more this context here, right? Because it's sending the entire notebook. So it knows not just like the columns, but also the explanation of the columns. So it basically, I ask basically a table with like our monthly revenue, number of orders. It wrote some code to calculate exactly that. Let's see if this code works. Yeah, so it created a table for me, broken down by month, our monthly revenue, and our number of orders, right? So if you notice, so far I didn't write any line of code, right? I'm just like asking for information. So let's continue. Can you plot my monthly revenue? So it basically needs to understand that I want, of course, a new chart, and I want monthly, and I want like probably using this information that it already has, right? So let's see if it does that. Sure, here's a bar revenue. So it's basically reusing the variables that you wrote above, right? It's using the monthly revenue and plotting a bar, and is naming the X and Y axis. So here it is. Not pretty, right? The revenue is going down. That's not great, but it's there. It did what I wanted. But if you look at this chart, it's super ugly, right? Let's maybe make it a little bit prettier. Can you make it prettier? And usually for prettier charts and like interactive charts, I use a library called Plotly. So I'll ask you to do that. So if you notice, I'm not saying, oh, another error. So let's see if it goes. Okay, no problem. If you notice, I'm not asking to make the chart prettier. It understands that like I just plotted a chart and I want to make it prettier, right? So let's see, now it's using Plotly. It wrote a little bit of code. Let's run that code. Oh shit, there is an error. So object of type period is not JSON serializable. Okay, so now we got, it basically suggested me a little bit of code, but that code is wrong. Okay, now where things got like really interesting, right? Because it understands this notebook. So if I ask something about this error, it will do something about this error, right? So let's ask it, can you fix the error above? Let's see if it's able to do that. Sure, there's caused by month year column containing period objects, which are not JSON serializable. We can fix this by converting the period objects to strings. So where is doing that? Here. So if you look, it's doing month year as type string. So ideally, it fixed the issue. Let's see. Yeah, it fixed the issue. Now I have like a prettier chart, and it's an interactive chart because it's using Plotly. Okay, so I have like a prettier chart. Let's continue my exploration. Let's see, because now I'm worried about like this revenue dropping, right? It's never great. So can you add line, let's see, with number of orders? Yeah. Basically, I want to see like what's going on with the number of orders, right?
Marcos, we have a few questions here on the chat as well. Is it okay if we put them up as we go?
I think it would be better to answer at the end, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, basically because I have kind of like already defined the entire demo, and I'm worried like I will miss it. But like, I think we're already at 20 minutes. Hopefully I will finish in like just a few minutes. It's pretty fast. Okay, so basically, if you look here, I basically ask, okay, can you add line of number of orders? It added a lot of code, right? I just asked one thing, but it did a lot of stuff. But let's see if it works. Okay, it worked. So I have like the monthly revenue, a number of orders. I have, if you look, the bar chart is the revenue, the line chart is the number of orders. And the number of orders is dropping even faster, apparently, than the monthly revenue. That's also not great. Although like the scale here is not starting from 0. But okay, let's continue. Based on this information, right, I have like revenue and I have orders. I will ask what's going on with my ticket size, right? So can you now add a line with the average overlap? But let's do something even interesting, more fancy. AOV. Let's see if you understand what's AOV. Basically, AOV is like the average order value, right? The ticket size. And because of the context here where I have like orders, and just like to say like what a little bit of like what Mercê does, we are a B2B e-commerce. So we have like a lot of orders in our database. And it understood, yes, it's adding a line of the average order value, and it's explaining how to calculate, and it's calculating, and it's a lot of code. Let's see if it makes sense. Yeah, it's getting the monthly revenue and dividing by the number of orders, right? Let's see if that works. Yeah, apparently it works. So basically now I have a chart with our monthly revenue, our number of orders, and the AOV. What's cool is that the AOV is going up, right? That's good. But let's not like get into too much details quite yet. But I think what's something interesting that I think it's really nice to notice is that it's not rewriting the entire code. It's basically adding on top of the code that's already wrote. And it's interesting. I saw this pattern where it basically, if you look at this variable, it kind of like neatly organized the data to be able to build on top of it, right? So it has like a table where it's aggregated by month, where I have monthly revenue, number of orders, and AOV. And I can derive some conclusions from this chart and this data, right? Where like our AOV is going up. But better than that is why I don't ask the AI to do that, right? Can you derive a conclusion from the table above? Let's see if it does that. We're already at 24 minutes mark. Hopefully I can finish in 1 or 2 minutes. The only thing, part of the thing limiting like the speed here is like how slow are these models. Unfortunately, you can't make them faster. So we just need to wait for them to finish. But here, okay, monthly revenue, the highest revenue was generated in July, followed by August. After that, there is a noticeable decline. Interesting. Number of orders, the number of orders follow a similar pattern as revenue. Yeah, that's true. And the AOV has been increasing from July to November. Okay, that's interesting. That's like a pretty big conclusion. So I don't want to read that. So what I would do is, can you summarize in 1 sentence? We don't have time to lose here, so I'll not be reading like an entire paragraph, right? Okay. Despite a decrease in total revenue and number of orders from September to December 2022, the average order value has been increasing, indicating that customers are spending more per order during this period. Okay, so how can we finish this, right? Like the kind of like the conclusion, at least about the data, seems correct. But what we can do after that is, so we are kind of like in this forum that's from Atlantico, right? They are not, just a disclaimer, they're not our investors, but if they were, maybe I should write an email to them, like explaining what's going on in the company, right? So let me write an email. Can you write an email to our investors with the conclusion? I don't want to write that email, right? It's kind of like, it has some good news about the AOV, but like some pretty bad news about revenue and orders. Let's see how it writes that email. So subject, update monthly revenue, number of orders, and AOV. I don't like that subject, but that's okay. I hope this email finds you well. I want to provide you with an update or recent business performance, specifically focusing, okay, it's writing a lot of stuff. In summary, we have the following trends. Yeah, it's kind of like a version of that conclusion we got before. While the total revenue and number of orders have been decreasing, the average order has been increased. Okay, some good notes. And to further improve our business performance, we are currently analyzing the factors contributing to that decline. It doesn't know that we are doing that, but it said that. I think that's fair enough. But that email, I think it's pretty boring, right? I think we can make it better. So let's do this. That's a pretty boring email. Can you rewrite it as a poem? Let's see if it does that. Hopefully it does. Okay, subject, a brief poetic update on business trends. Okay, that subject is better than the previous one, right? So dear investors, okay, let's see. In the dance of numbers and tale we share of revenue and orders and value so rare, from July to August, our fortunes did soar, but September to December, they dipped evermore. Yet the average order value did rise, a silver lining, a delightful surprise. We seek to uncover the reasons behind and new strategies for growth we shall find. Hopefully, future email to investors will look more like this and not this boring one. But yeah, I think that was like the demo for from my side. I have like a few conclusions, but I'm happy now to jump into questions. And
awesome, and we're running a little bit over time, so we have only a couple minutes for questions.
Sure.
But I know Pedro has his hand up, so maybe we can start with him.
Very quickly, Marcos, really good demo. Like previous people said, things are moving really fast. And just to make an update for everyone, Marcos did a really cool job about bringing context and a chat conversation with your code. But basically, GitHub is also releasing Copilot X, which will introduce GPT-4 and context. So this is a really good provocation for all of us to understand that prototype is easier, is fast, a bunch of open sources tools that's available for us, but also big corps are coming, and sometimes things will be delivered through this. So it's just just to add more information to make our minds blow up that things are really moving fast, and maybe it's worth some time spending more time actually delivering value for the customer, for our companies, and try to figure out what we have already available on the market, so enhance ourselves in our productivity. But a really cool demo, congrats, and share later on this notebook, because I will also use until good Copilot X being released.
For sure, no, of course. And yeah, just like on that note, for sure, I think a lot of people are having like kind of like trying to figure out like how to deliver value to clients. Hopefully Marcelo will bring some light on that, because they're already doing that. And of course, a lot of people are trying. We are doing that at Mercê, where we like make it easier for our clients to order via WhatsApp, via audio, and all of that. But what Pedro said is definitely something important to realize. When you are developing these tools or even like products for your company, something to keep in mind is that things are moving so fast that there is a good chance that someone is doing something similar to you, right? This thing I did here is not something that's kind of like innovative. There are like a few people doing stuff like that, like even Pedro said, right? Like Copilot X is coming. I have like some questions about like how the context size, because for example, here I was just looking at like, did the demo until like this point, and basically the context size was already around like 15,000 tokens. And just to give you an idea about cost, sending that to GPT-4 with that context size is around 70 cents of a dollar. So about 4 reais. or 3 to 5 to 4 reais, just like one request, right? So things are not that cheap, but they will become cheaper and cheaper as time goes.
Great.
Yep.
I think so.
Another
We
question.
might want to move on to the next panelist now, João, who's already here with us in the audience. So I will pass it on to him. Marcos, thank you so much for this amazing demo. I'm excited to try it out.
Thank you for showing this. I think it was great. Really appreciate it, and I think great questions as well. I'm gonna introduce João now, who is one of the founders and is the CTO of Trybe. I think João, actually, it'd be great if you maybe could spend a minute or two in the beginning of the demo just introducing Trybe for those that don't know. But I'll do a quick my version of it, which is really Trybe is a coding school. I think that the highest quality coding school that we've seen anywhere. You know, they accept something between 2 to 3% of all the people that apply. So it's a very selective program to take in a few hundred students per batch, and then those students participate in a full-time 12-month course to learn to become basically, you know, full stack software developers, and then go off into the world and sort of build the next great set of tools. But João, off to you to maybe introduce yourself and then do a little bit of demo. As a reminder, about 20 minutes or so of demo, and then we'll have, you know, 5-10 minutes max of questions, so people can raise their hands whenever you have a question.
Okay, thank you, Julio. So hello, everyone. Super excited to be here today. My name is JD. I am CTO of Trybe. As Julio said, we've proud to have had more than 7,000 students attending our classes over the past 4 years. We're proud to have helped them to achieve good job opportunities. We also work very closely with more than 1,000 companies who have already hired students from us. We have a partner program with companies, so our partner companies can access and hire our students for free, no strings attached. So if you're interested in hiring talented developers ready to make impact in your company, please consider Trybe. Message me, I'm here, so glad to help you. But moving on to talking about turbocharging software development with AI. I'll talk a little bit today also about GitHub Copilot. I'm not showing anything I've developed myself. It's much more like showing for those who have been, I don't know, maybe in a space tour in the last years and haven't heard about GitHub Copilot yet. Just to make you up to speed, I'll show you a little bit of how it works, just like coding a project using this as I would in a daily basis. So let me just share my screen. So just a little bit of context. GitHub, we're talking a lot about GitHub Copilot right now, but it's been around for a while now. It was released in 2021. And last year, it was first released for Visual Code, and that's actually when it started like to see its usage and adoption increasing. But as the last person who asked the question said, it's like just the early days and a lot of things to come. So very excited to what it already can do. So I'll just show some example, just to give you a quick context on what I'll be trying to develop here. Suppose we are a school, I'm building a system for a school, and I'll try to write like models to represent the student. We have cohorts, students are part of cohorts, and each cohort will have like a Slack channel associated to it. I want to create a Slack channel from a cohort, add the students from this cohort in its Slack channel, and then like make possible that my system messages either the students or the cohort from the system to Slack, like to automate messages or things like that. So just to give some context. Now jumping to the visual code. So this is just like a boilerplate code for a Jumbo app. We have a students app here, and this is the file where we can write our models. So there are basically two ways to interact with GitHub Copilot. I just hit enter and it's already suggesting like a student class model because I'm in a student's folder called folder. So I can just hit tab to accept its suggestion. I can navigate. It's just one suggestion here right now, so I can navigate, but I can also interact with it writing natural language, as Mark showed as well. So I can, for instance, say, create a cohort model with, it's already suggesting like a naming start date, but let's suppose I want attributes, name, start date, and since I want each cohort to have a Slack channel, I will write like a Slack channel ID. And okay, let's see if the cohort is active or not. And then it suggests like the attributes that I asked for, already suggesting type of fields I should use for like Boolean for active, characters for the Slack channel ID. I believe it's like, not sure if the ID would be like an integer or some UUID, so it's suggesting a char field. Let's see if it was suggesting a different way to do this. I can, again, hover the code. I can navigate the suggestions. Okay, so I'm okay with this one. Let's go ahead. So I have my attributes here, and now I want to create a Slack channel from this model. So the best way to interact with Slack would be like using their official software development kit. So I will import it for the project. And this is very interesting because if I try to create create Slack channel method here, it won't suggest anything interesting because it doesn't know how to interact with Slack and how to create the channel there. But if I add or import the SDK, I can like Slack SDK.web import client, and then I try to create it again. Create Slack channel. That's it. So now it understands that I'm using this library, and it gets the context from this library, and then it suggests the codes that uses the correct methods from the library. So it's getting the client, asking for the Slack token using an environment variable. So it's like weird that I won't write the Slack token here on the code. It's using a library that is not imported. So if I just like hit enter here, it will suggest me to import the OS library. And then it's getting the channel ID from the response and saving the model with the field ID. So it's very interesting because we can see exactly how it gained context from the library imported and suggested the code for it.
João, can we zoom in just a little bit on the screen? We're getting a few requests from the audience.
Okay, sorry.
All good. Thank you.
Let me see, how can I do that? Okay. Is it better?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we created the cohort, we created the Slack channel. Now I want to create the students model. So this time I won't use natural language. Let's just try to create the model. I start class. It suggests students already, student model, suggested name field, a cohort, and it understands that there is a cohort model here, uses a foreign key relationship, gets the cohort model, and suggests the string method name. That's good for now. Now let's try to add the student to the channel. So add student channel, Slack channel, just make sure. Okay, so what is suggested is to get the client, then use the conversations invite method from the API, passing the cohort ID from the cohort as the channel, and users is passing a attribute called Slack user ID. And you can see that this Slack user ID, it's not an attribute from the user. So it's like showing me how to build what I want to do, because with using just a name here, he won't be able to understand where to get information from the user and how to add it to Slack. So I need this attribute. So if I don't have it, I can just hit enter here. It will suggest that I create the Slack user ID and then I can use. But I don't know how to get this user ID. So I can also get here. It's suggesting me to create a Slack user, but suppose I'm not like using this to create the user, but just retrieving it from some attribute. So I can write a method, get user ID, get Slack user ID. And then that's what it suggests. So it, again, creates a client and use the users lookup by mail method. We can all check okay, so it's actually linking already, not a Copilot feature here, but it's linking to the correct method for the API using the email that I also don't have. So now I hit enter here and I can add the email that I need to get the user ID, so I can fill it and add the student to the Slack channel. Okay, so now we have the cohort, we have the Slack channel, and we have the student, and we have added the student to Slack channel. So this is like for showing how we can. We don't have like any complex code here, but it's like very easy to use it like a partner that is like suggesting how can I write simple things, and I can just hit tab, check if it's writing like something similar that I want to do, or if I want to change one attribute, add a different thing, or follow a different path, and it's like adapting as I write the code, and it's boosts productivity because I can like just react to what it's writing instead of thinking every line of every kind of code from problems that it's very common know and familiar problems right now. So I did that in the models file. I can also come here and try to write some test cases. There are some people who don't like to write test case a lot, so I can import the models, create a class for test case, and see what it suggests. So again, it suggests to create the setup method. So one thing that we haven't looked at is that if I click on this menu here, there is a open completions panel option that shows me suggestions for the code that I want to input. So I can just let me increase the size here. So first suggestion, it's telling me to create just a cohort in the setup and then a method to test create Slack channel. Other suggestion, it's setting up with a new cohort and then testing create the Slack channel and testing add the student to the Slack channel. Doesn't make sense because it's not like a cohort method. Then there are some other options with different parameters for testing Slack channel. So I'll just keep with the first one, seems the best. So it's creating a cohort, creating a Slack channel. Now let's try a different thing that will be like using Copilot as a partner in a test-driven development. So I can also try to write here in the cohort test case, let's say, create a test, get channel number of users on channel. So it's getting the cohort, creating a Slack channel, calling the create Slack channel method, and then trying to get the number of users from channel. So if I get back to my cohort model here, it already suggests me to create that method that is on the test. So it's like TDD in practice. I can write the test, I can come back here, it's suggesting me to create the minimum code to make that test pass. And then it suggests to get the channel from the channel ID and get the parameters from members and returning it like as a value. So it's very interesting, like to change roles and start writing tests first and then getting back to models. So we talked a lot about like the completion code. So there is also another interesting feature about Copilot. There is this tab, this tab here, where there are some different tools that they've been releasing the next couple of months. So one very interesting is this explain tab. So let's just switch to a more complex file. Suppose we just joined the new project. We have like this big complex Python class that we want to navigate through and write some code on it. And we want to understand what this enrollment counts method does. So I can just like highlight the code, go to this explain feature, and ask Copilot to explain me what this code do. And it returns with a text explaining step by step what the code is doing. So the enrollment counts functions takes course ID as an argument. The query variables store the query which is executed using Django ORM. The query variables pass it to use replica if available function, which is defined in Django apps utility. Then use this function to execute the query is stored in an enroll dictive, and the enroll dictive variables then return it. So it simplifies and tells me what it's doing here. But let's suppose I didn't quite get, so I can ask again for Copilot to explain it. And then it returns a different explanation, telling me different things from the code. So first we are using the super method to call the parent class method. Then we are calling get query set and so on. So it tells me that it's grouping based on the mode, which is right here, explaining, what is doing, iterating the query set and filling the enrolled dictionary and returning. So it can be also a very helpful partner, like to navigate through unknown code, new code for us. There are other features here as well. One very interesting is these brushes. I've not had success using it with Python code. It seems that it works better with JavaScript. But suppose I want to make these steps of what the code is doing as comments here. So there is a brush called list steps. All I need to do is select the code and use this brush. It's like a Photoshop brush that I can use on my code and ask it for it to list steps. And then it will change my code, adding comments on what it's doing. So filter the query set for only the specified for selected enrollments, initialize enrollment, and so on. So I believe these features will evolve over time. I've seen some videos of using these custom brushes. That is, I haven't had success using it with Python, but I can like select the code and write what I want to do here using natural language, and it supposedly would apply a filter in the code. Don't have anything to show you with success here, but might be interesting to explore in the future. So this is like very general overview of what Copilot is doing. I also would like to share very quickly with you some other things that GitHub is building. So one of them is the one called Copilot PR. That's a plugin for GitHub that writes summaries for pull requests. So you just need to open a pull request, write PR Copilot, and it will generate a summary describing what the pull request is doing, adding like the walkthrough of the pull request with the links of the commits that are related to those tasks. We also have Copilot for docs. This is on waiting list right now, I believe. Next ones, I believe, are still on beta or development, but they're building GitHub Copilot for docs that will help you build documentation for your code. There is the Copilot for command line. So you write natural language what you want to do, and it will provide you with more detailed way on how to do that. And there is one that is very, very interesting. I'm very excited for that. That is GitHub Copilot for your code base. So basically what they say is that currently Copilot will just get context from the open tabs on your project, and maybe like the folders that your file are in and things like that. But what is this trying to, sorry. I'm trying to keep the time, okay? So what is saying that you try to do is to connect to your repo, get it as, not sure how, but either as an embedding or a appliance on the model, and not as a context, as Marcus' example showed, to enrich the suggestions that you can get from your code. So very excited on those features as well. And just like final thoughts on using this kind of tool. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up, but Copilot is around like for a year now. It's technology that we can start using right now, see how we can relate to it and how it can benefit us in our day-to-day tasks. So I invite you all to try. I was really surprised on how it was easy to start using it on a day-to-day basis. It's also not perfect, so we can see that it makes mistakes, it suggests different things that we're trying to do, but I don't think like the purpose is like for it to be perfect. It's like to help us to be there, like suggesting or trying to fix. If we use like a spreadsheet, we will make mistakes. If we ourselves write code, we also can make mistakes. And I don't think it's about that. It's much more about how it can, like, if we can create a class, a function much more fast, and then we just need to get there and review the code, see if it's really doing what we're trying to do, we can like boost our productivity on top of it. So I believe it's good opportunity to adapt, because the tool is already there and everyone will start to use, so we better also try and see how we can make in our day-to-day. Thank you.
Awesome, João, thank you so much. This was a wonderful demo. We have time for a couple of questions, so maybe we can do Alice and then Bernardo.
Sounds good. João, thank you for the demo. That was incredibly powerful and impressive. I was wondering, in the context of Thrybe, how has that impacted or accelerated the formation or education of developers with these new tools?
Thank you, Alice. So we just recently start using it to understand how we can incorporate it, bring it to our teaching experience. And first thing, I believe most important is it's not a very good tool to be used for those who are like starting to learn to code, because it will like, it's not like a tutor that is suggesting you step by step, provoking you on how to do the things and think about like problem solving and things like that. It's like just trying to give the answer. So it's not a good tool to be used if you are really start learning to program. So, but at the same time, the tool is already there, and we can't like prevent people from using it, and people will try to use it. So instead of like banishing it or ignoring the tool, what we're trying to do is like bringing it to our day-to-day and make students familiar on how or what is the best way to use it that will actually make benefit for them in the medium and long term, not as like a quick answer giver. So it's very new thing. What we're trying to do is like suggesting, okay, you shouldn't use this like as a replacement for your reasoning or for like facing a new problem. You should be using it as much more like if you try to, okay, I wrote an approach for a problem, let me see what it would suggest, and then see and understand if I'm getting like the right way to do it, or if it's there's a different way I can learn. I can also like get a code and ask for Copilot to improve my code. There is like brushes for that, and see what it changed, and then learn from it. So next time I could like avoid making mistakes like that. So this is what we're so far learned from Copilot. There is also like ChatGPT. I didn't mention it, but it can also be like a very, very important tool during the learning process, because there you can actually ask for like, be more like, you don't give an answer, behave like a tutor and try to guide me so I can find where my code is buggy, so I can try to fix it. So there is a lot of things we can incorporate. It must be done with a lot of in a careful way, because it will try to answer things, and we are trying to learn. So it's a sensible use, but we need to incorporate, because the tool is already out there, and we can't like ignore, or we can't prevent it from being part of students' day-to-day. We must direct the effort on making or teaching them how to use it the right way.
I think since we're right out of time, I'm going to suggest here that our last hand, Mr. Bernardo, you know João well. You guys can grab a drink later and you can make your question. So thank you, João. That was a great presentation. Really appreciate it. I think people really liked it. I know I learned a lot. I think now we're going to go to the third demo. Where is Marcelo?
Here.
Oh. I'm going to call now our good Carioca entrepreneur, over 20 years building leading companies in tech. I think for those of you that don't know Marcelo Sales, he was one of the founders way back when of Movile, which today many of you probably use through iFood, right? And now he is leading, he was one of the founders of Cyberlabs, which is a sort of holding company and kind of research initiative at first around AI. He was one of the first people that I knew to just kind of dive all into AI, I think over 5 years ago, just decided this thing was going to be too big, and that decided to dedicate his life. Now Cyberlabs, you can tell a little bit more, has also gone into the insurance and cybersecurity space. So I think what began as a lot of exploration now has really powerful applications. So I'm going to hand it off to him. Thank you, Marcelo, for your demo. Again, if you could try to keep it to around 20 minutes and 5 minutes for questions at the end, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm really enthusiastic of AI, machine learning, computer vision, and LLMs. So I decided to do a walkthrough process here. How can you build a corporate bot, a chat bot? And it's super easy, and I just want to go through the basics first. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is the playground of OpenAI. I know everybody knows this, but the tricky part is like you can give instructions for the system, right, before you start chatting with the system. So I gave him a little bit instructions. Use the following pieces of context to answer the question at the end. If you don't know the answer, just say that you don't know. Don't try to make up the answer. And the context is here. So last instruction, answer in English. So I'll ask you, so what is the color of the sky? And he should answer blue. But what if I ask him a different question, like, what is OpenAI? OpenAI. Oh, he answered what is OpenAI. He should not, because I'm trying to make him like really, really close to this context. So if you don't know the answer, you just, so let's try a different thing. What is the color of water? Here. So what I'm trying to do here is to show you that pretty much he should actually not answer this. And what I want to do is try to change this. Answer like a parrot. What is the color of water? So he's answering the color, but like a parrot. So I could actually change the persona of the answer, right? And I could say, okay, what is grass? So when you're creating a bot, the first thing you need to do is prompt engineering. So you need to be testing a lot of prompts, different prompts, and say, okay, you are answer things that you should not give these complex answers here. Maybe the temperature is 0. You should not create. Let's send to GPT-4. Let's start again. Okay. What is the color of the tree? Oh, so now he's better. So now he's actually saying, I don't know the color of the tree, as is not mentioned in the context. So now I lock in this bot. So now he's only answering things that I want to. So let's try. What is OpenAI? Oh, mate, OpenAI be research level, the focus on certainly. So probably because I'm using the playground of OpenAI, he's like, yeah, I will answer what is OpenAI. But if I ask him, what is Cyberlabs? He doesn't know what is Cyberlabs, so it's not specifying the context. So, okay. When you try to create a bot using GPT, it's really important for you to do the prompt engineer and realize that through APIs, you can actually set the system and the message, and you can do a lot of like tricks to make this better. The secret is the context. It's like, okay, but I have a lot of content of my company. I have a lot of products. What should I do? So let's try to move this a little bit. Okay. So I create this little prototype. And so I actually open ChatGPT created 50% of this prototype. And what it does is like using LangChain, which is a framework, I can actually feed any content from any YouTube or any website or any PDF, and he will transform these in embeddings. And now I have this infinite amount of content that I can provide to my bot, and I can actually chat and do this prototyping of like question and answer. So I saw this video is like 2 hours and 23 minutes. I said, okay, I just gonna feed this video, and he give me a summary, and I can ask him some questions, right? So, okay, Sam, does GPT-4 has conscience? No, it doesn't. Okay, great. Let's ask another question. Maybe a lot of people want to know if will AI take our jobs? No, I don't think AI, thank God, will take our jobs. Blah. Okay, another question. Will LLMs leads to AGI? No. However, it's part of the way, and all the elements are needed to achieve AGI. So this is great. Okay, but I can actually tweak the last instructions too. So I can say, okay, answering in English, but let's do this. Instructions. Okay, answer in English, but if you don't know the answer, complement with oops, time to learn more. And I'm gonna give him another question. What is ChatGPT plugin? Because I want to use ChatGPT plugins. And ChatGPT plugins assist the allowed users to interact with AI-based products using natural. It's kind of cool, but I can feed with the page of ChatGPT plugins for him to give me a better answer. So let's come here. And now I'm feeding, I'm doing the scrapping of the entire website. I'm converting all the text into embeddings, putting my database, and I'm ready to ask again. So what is ChatGPT plugin? Let's wait a little bit. Live demo. So this is okay. Wow. So not only he gave him a summary, but now if I ask the question again, I forgot that it did. First he gave me a summary. Not that good. So I need to feed him more. Let's change. What is AutoGPT? I don't know if a lot of you know, but AutoGPT is the cool thing happening right now. So do you know about AutoGPT? It's not a system. It's a process of going from idea to deploying in a low OpenAI to the shipping AI business. It's actually correct, but it's not a really good. Let me just find a video about AutoGPT, copy, and I will provide this video here. I just want to show you guys how fast it is. So now I'm transcribing the whole video, right? Extracting the text and do the embeddings. So now I know what AutoGPT is. Let me try to ask him again. Oh, okay. It's a tool that uses GPT-4 and is connected to the web. It's more likely. So the cool thing here is that I can actually feed with all type of content that I want, and then I can try this bot, and I can see if it's working, if it's not working. I can change the suffix of the prompts over here. I can say, okay, what is a CAD? He doesn't know what is a CAD. Oops, time to learn more. So now let's jump to a real demo, right? A real product. So we have this insurance company called ACAD. And ACAD has a lot of insurance, different type of insurance. cargo, bikes, E&O, D&Os, and property, a lot of different lines of insurance. And the first thing I did was I took this prototype and then I decided to feed with all the webinars that we have. So who watches 1 hour of webinar about insurance? I don't know, but not a lot of people. So I decided to, okay, I want to make a LangChain and GPT to watch it, extract the content, the relevant content, and then create a bot. So we put this in a form of real bot in WhatsApp. And the cool thing is like we plugged the Whisper from OpenAI. So because we have 5,000 brokers, guys, those brokers, they have a lot of doubts and questions. And those were like a real bottleneck in the company because we were receiving like 100 up to 200 different questions per day. And those were relevant questions. And we decided to create this bot using GPT 3.5 Turbo behind and put on production. And I would like to show you guys some amazing things that you can do. So you can see it's in Portuguese here, but I can switch to in English, no problem. And I can actually send an audio. So let me ask you a question. Hi, my client has a bike. It costs around 3,000 and he's looking for insurance policy that covers South America. What kind of product do you have for him and what kind of coverage do you offer? So I send the audio. He's gonna send back the transcription of the audio like I did with the videos. Okay. And now it's a complex question, right? And now he's gonna search for the relevant answer and voila. Hello, this is it, blah, 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 blah. And he gave him the answer. So let me try a different thing. Hey, dude, I'm doing a presentation for 300 entrepreneurs. They are all CEOs, CTOs of big tech companies. What kind of product can I offer to them? Different questions. Let's say I'm a broker, I'm on the field, right? In a real situation, and I just want to know the answer. Okay. Cyber Risk Pro. I hope you guys have cyber risk insurance. And also E&O, which is Responsabilidade Civil Geral, that covers you. And if you have problems with Garantia, you can also hire insurance. Okay, this is pretty cool. Let's move on. Let's say, hey, well, one of my clients, he's covered by your insurance. He just had a truck who actually have been robbed, and I don't know what should they do right now. So different type of questions with different type of situations. And let's see what the bot answers. I'm sorry to hear that your client's truck was robbed. Oh, this is beautiful, right? You need to report a claim, blah, 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 blah. This is beautiful. He actually saying, sorry, I understand this, but you need to open a claim. And okay, so how can I open a claim? And I just have one more example, and then we can open to questions. So this is in production. That means that we are answering 500 questions today with this bot. So now they have like all the sinistro emails and phone number that you can call. This is real phone. Please don't call this number, guys. This is real. So let's move on and say, okay, please write me a template for email that I can send to a client saying that what kind of insurance he can buy for his bike and what kind of coverage and the average price it costs. So poor English, just asking to write me a template of email because I'm too lazy to. Oh, he thought, oh, it was so poor English that they thought it was in Portuguese. So definitely he's going to give me a totally crazy answer here. So he actually answered me in Portuguese. Oh my God, this is cool. Okay, but this is a template of email. And the way I can assume that he decided to answer me in Portuguese is because my English was not that good in my question, to be honest. So who decides what kind of language you should answer the user is actually GPT. He's making this decision for me. But it works in any language, English, Portuguese, French, Spanish, you name it. And it's pretty cool. And it solves a real pain for our company, which was like customer services. And we're improving today. So now you can make like quotation, you can access financial numbers from your broker company. And soon we're gonna release to end clients too, so they can open claims and they can actually different things about their policies. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
So I have one. Is regarding the audio to text. Are you using Whisper API from OpenAI? And how this actually is reliable for Portuguese?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's way better. No, it's not way better. Let's say the NER is like 4%. That means that, you know, it works for any average Portuguese language. And we tested it in really tough situations like claims, like, oh my God, this is an and a lot of noise, and it's definitely he understands. But it's the best model I know that you can use and rely on it is Whisper. Trust me, because I developed a voice model like 2 years ago, and I know everything around it.
Do you have any suggestions for audio, for text to audio? So the other way around. So for example, you instead of replying text, you reply also in audio back to your customer. Do you have any suggestion?
Yeah, but we realized that the reality, the broker doesn't want to hear anything. You know, he just wanted to ask really quick and then see the answer. So that's why we said, okay, it's relevant. Don't do this part. Because as an entrepreneur, you want to solve a real problem, right? You want like your clients use it daily. And it's super important to mention this, the framework that we are solving here is a problem for 5,000 brokers. So that's why the cost related, it's way easier to use GPT in production for us. If it was like open for like 1 million people, I don't know if we would go this way, but now it's pretty okay.
You actually bring up a really good point in terms of cost, because although there is a bunch of costs regarding these models, for example, you're using WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is really, really expensive when you go into API. So I know you don't have this answer, but it's kind of something we should think about, because a bunch of industry will have new ways to interact. So for example, if these LLM models start to interact more often on WhatsApp, the current pricing we have in WhatsApp doesn't make sense at all. It's same for other channels. What's your view and perception about these other industries will somehow be impacted about this new type of experience we're going to deliver using these models?
To be honest, I don't know. Because so I have different companies that I invested, and some of those companies, they cannot use it because it's forbidden costs right now. The others, it was like again, we would never solve this customer service problem last year. We were like actually struggling. We were like putting more people on customer services, and the problem was actually growing up. And then we said, oh my God, now I can leapfrog. And then we put a production, which was kind of risky, for my opinion, but it worked. And I say, oh my God, thank God. And now we are experienced other type of interface. So I'm plugging this and answer emails, corporate emails. I'm plugging this in the inside chat, inside our broker system. So it's being pretty helpful. Juan?
Yes. Do you tell your customers that they are talking to a chatbot?
Yeah. The first thing we do is you talk with an AI chatbot. If you wanted to speak with a human, just say, speak with human, and then we're going to plug a human being with you.
And how do you handle questions not related to your business, for example?
Oh, we say we are AI bot of Acad Seguros, and we don't answer questions that's not related with insurance because it's in the context. Remember that I showed you? I lock in the problem. Any more questions? I think
Perfect.
that's okay. Look.
That was great, Marcelo. As always, very exciting and entertaining all in one. I think you deserve all the claps and the hearts that people are sending here. Thanks again for joining. I think we've had now a little bit of around the world, right? We did, João was in Belo Horizonte, maybe, Marcos in São Paulo, Marcelo in Rio, and now we're going to go to Argentina, and not just Argentina, but we're going to go to Patagonia, Argentina, so that we can really test the quality of internet service here for the Zoom. So it's a big pleasure to invite up here on stage a good friend, Sebastian Serrano, who's the founder of Ripio. For those of you that are not familiar with Ripio, Ripio is one of the biggest digital asset companies and platforms. They have a big exchange and broker in throughout Latin America for you to buy digital assets and cryptocurrencies. And Sebastian has been in this world, I think, basically maybe before Satoshi, but he can tell a little bit more about that and show us a little bit of a demo here. Sebas, thanks for coming.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I don't know why I'm in this webinar. I'm not an AI expert. I am a developer, and I'm very excited. I show Julio and Marco an example. I think they like it to show it. But as Julio say, I'm a CEO and founder of Ripio. The 29, we're gonna be 10 years old. So we're one of the first crypto companies out there, in not only Latam. Through B2C and B2B2C, we reach more than 8 million users. We have several products, a wallet, exchange, and product for companies and high net worth individuals. You can think in kind of like a private banking of crypto. And we also do B2B, and we have a Ripio business product that helps banks, fintechs, and e-commerce to integrate with crypto. Their largest client is Mercado Libre. We did Mercado Coin for them, like helped them a lot with that project. We do the buy wholesale of Mercado Coin and the custody, and we're also working with some of the largest banks across Latin America to integrate crypto, and very excited. And AI is definitely going to have a lot of points of interactions with AI. I'm not gonna show like it touches blockchain, an example that I did, but it's not directly that. And then I was thinking to share some thoughts about like challenges that AI brings too. And let me share my desktop, I think. So I have many examples that I have been explaining, and I'm playing with several things, but basically, I think the one that I did complete as a project, personally, I don't code many production things at this stage in life. But I was playing with a Web3 social platform called Lens. Lens protocol is kind of like you can think it as a Twitter built on the Polygon blockchain, and it has it's like all the information is public, and how you when you create your profile is an NFT, and when you follow someone it's also an NFT, and there is a lot of information out there, and I got like I don't have so much time to coding, but it's all, well, this maybe may help me build something that I found it cool, which is I wanted to make a graph of the following, so who was following me and who was following others, and kind of like play with it. So I went here to ChatGPT and I say, well, let's write a Next.js web application that renders a graph diagram of the nested followers. And then I imagine that it did not know the client SDK, so I give it a lot of context about how to import the code and how to query a profile, and how and a bit about how to use it. And I think this is one of the most important things, which is you need to be you need to be very we're gonna have to train about how to prompt, and give good prompts and good context makes all the difference on what it will came out. So I think like experienced developers and like people that knows their libraries and how to do architecture are the ones that get the most power out of especially ChatGPT. So it responded with, well, like to create a Next.js project, you had to run these commands, which I literally started to copy up and paste together with ChatGPT and Visual Studio Code. And then it started to bring me like, well, you need to make a custom hook. This is to get the data from the Lens protocol client SDK. It gave me a component with a graph. It chose a framework that I do not know much, which is called Beast Network. Wrote like this graph and make the basic homepage for the page. We to render. It did not complete. You had to do a lot of this when it's creating a lot of code. So you ask it to continue from where it ended. Basically from here, I copy everything into, like, did the steps and copy the code into Visual Studio Code. It amazingly ran, and I did not like the result. So I do know D3.js is another library for making diagrams. So I told him, convert GraphJS to D3.js. And then it started saying, well, you need to install D3.js with this command, and basically converted the entire code into D3. So I have like made all this conversion. You had to say a lot of this, complete the response because it times out. That seems to as already has some context, make it faster. So it does complete a lot when you ask him for completions. So I did this and it worked. Like it gave me the graph, like it pulled my data, and I started to play a bit with it, and immediately noticed, you know what? I want you to add zoom in, add zoom out with the wheel of the mouse. And this is where I think, like, I'm not so sure, like for junior developers, I think it makes them more productive. That I think, like, here, like, the experience plays a lot in, like, now you need to know what to edit and where to edit. And when it makes mistakes, also you need to know. It makes bug fixing also interesting, because of the amount of code that this thing writes and where you replace. But basically replacing it added the zoom in and zoom out. Another iteration was like when you hover at the ID of the user, the name and the bio, it gave me more code to mix with that code to add that. And then I continue playing and then, like, making other edits, and then I had to update it in the in how is the current code, and say, well, based on my edit page, add an input field to enter the handle, because initially it was hard coded with my username. So bunch of code, and it pushed me where I need to edit my existing code. So this is something I feel is like, I think that we're no longer going to write line by line. It's like we're writing by chunks of code, which is amazing. So when I got into this point, I did I got to this needs some style, so ask it. I add Tailwind CSS, which is the most popular library right now to make styling. It told me how to install it, how to set it up for a Next.js project, and how to make the basic styling. Then in more editing, fill the screen, blah, blah, blah. Other things about like click behavior. And at the end, I got into, well, this is good enough to publish. Add me some Google Analytics tracking. Something that happens, like the first response was an old library that it was not maintained. I think that's one of the things that you need to be careful. Is like if it tends to respond you with code that has the most cited libraries. And here it's good to check like the state of that libraries, and maybe prompt it to use another one that is more current and it has better more developers contributing to it, or like it supports like for example, the other one the original that it told me was using a version of Google Analytics that is no longer supported, and it's going to be but I think it's already deprecated. So that's like, this is the complete of the code for this small thing. And basically it's this website, like this, you can enter a lens handle, and then it gives you like this big graph with people that follow me and who follow them on this social network. I can hover. This is a Ripio developer, and it also has a ton of other followers that are also people from Ripio. You can zoom in, zoom out. And I went into Lens Studies, and one of these applications that reads the Lens protocol, and I posted it to it. Like, you can go there, and it became very viral. It has like 500 comments, like a ton of mirrors, and people collected a lot. It's a ton of people commenting on this thing, and I think like the entire thing from starting to publishing this site, which I published into Vercel, it must have lasted less than 5 hours. It's over 400 lines of code. If you look at all the code that is in the project, mine and from ChatGPT, and I think like the boost in productivity is just ginormous. I think like it can boost productivity from at minimum 5x to 20x for an experienced developer. I think it's like that is for me, which brings a lot of like this is a very amazing technology, and it brings a lot of concerns for a crypto company. I think like a lot of our concerns right now are around security. We did give access to all our developers to Copilot, we yet have not given access to ChatGPT or yet permission, but very likely they're already using it. And I think like it brings a lot of challenges to us. Like already before this, our main challenge being a mission critical company, it was not developing, like writing code. Like we have over 100 developers, like software developers, that programmers at Ripio, and we already like our bottleneck is not writing code. Our bottleneck is code review and QA. This crypto is very liquid, and we need to become a lot of like the process to deploy is very long. From a feature is finished until it gets published, it can take between a month or two, from QA going through staging, from all the processes of code review and merging the code. We're very careful. I think like I'm very conservative, and this has been one of the things why we still around after 10 years. Now with this technology, it's going to be even more challenging, because every one of the developers is going to be able to write a lot more code. We have tried to use it to find vulnerabilities, and it's not that great. But we already have seen exploits that happen from its use. There is an example that you can go search about a vulnerability on Samsung phones that happened a week ago or two, I think, where one of the developers was trying to, it got public 1 or 2 weeks ago. One of the developers was trying to fix a bug, security vulnerability of the Android Samsung base code. And because the responses are used for training, and like the code, like the queries and responses are used for training, OpenAI trained on the bug, and then people got able to find it because of this. So that's a case that really concerns us in like how we make our systems secure. And I think for us, it's one of the main challenges, I think. But it's definitely a very exciting time. I think we're going to be able to do a lot more things. And there is so many things happening. I think like I have talked enough. And again, I'm not an AI expert, but I guess I can just share like how I appreciate that. I don't know if anyone has questions or thoughts.
We can open to questions now. Anyone here?
I have a question, Sebastian. I think you already touched a little bit on it, right? But basically, I think even when we saw like, I think all of the demos, someone basically made some comment about privacy, made some comment about like sending this data to OpenAI, right? And like we were discussing in our chat before, you mentioned that you work with like money, liquid money in form of like digital money, right? So
and when you lose it, it's gone.
Yeah. So there is, of course, there is code review, right? But what else do you guys have in place to mitigate potential issues, right?
Well, like 10% of the company works on security. To give a sense of like the size of the security team, I will go from inside to outside. The security team are like in many companies divided in two. It's like there is a blue team and there is a red team, and they basically one is kind of like the good and the bad guys. And the good guys are trying to do code reviews. They teach a lot and do a lot of like education of our employees. There is a lot of processing about how we manage the onboarding and offboarding of people that join the company. There is a lot of things around background checks, because a lot of the exploitations that happen and a lot of like the vectors of attack are through humans. So there is a lot of work in the blue team. We have a red team that tries to find vulnerabilities on us and in partners. So they are all the time trying to hack. We're trying to hack ourselves and hack our partners too that we depend on. We have found a lot of like very heavy vulnerabilities on payment processors that we work with, and that's part of the work. So as I mentioned, there is a long process for merging and taking new code into production. That's something that we have been developing over the years, and makes and it's a very important piece. In that there are different levels, like the vulnerabilities that can happen in the UI and the UX are more difficult to make them widespread, but the vulnerabilities that could happen at the core, like in the backend, they can be destructive. So you do need to, like, there is like different places where you put more or less attention because of how they could impact. We also have a white hat program where we pay developers, white hackers, to try to hack us and do responsible disclosure. And that's something that is very common around the industry. And there is one way that we mitigate this risk and like give like an economic incentive for hackers to, rather than hacking us, like disclose it and make some money from a disclosure. And then we also hire several security companies that also do code review periodically, and we also do penetration testings that try to hack the system. There are many things. So, for example, every employer gets a computer from us. That computer has, from antivirus, firewalls, a lot of network monitoring into that computer. There is a big process of offboarding people, and that are some of the things on security. I'm trying to see like what else I'm forgetting, but it is a lot of investment into a company like us. There is also a lot of monitoring, like we are SOC 1 and SOC 2 certified level 2, and that's a requirement for a lot of big companies that work with us. And we also invest a lot in like the development of technologies for security. We're moving a lot more into multi-party computation to separate keys, break keys into pieces, so they're never on one server for our hot wallets. We have done a lot of contributions we recently contributed like one of the most risky pieces right now on blockchain ecosystems is the bridges between blockchains. So we recently make a big contribution to the most used bridge, which is called ChainSafe, for it to use MPC. So it's like never-ending fight to make it. But so I think like I will summarize it in one thing. When robbers are looking to rob a house in a neighborhood, they will choose one house over another for the contents and how hard it will be to enter. So if you are safer than your neighbor, you are more likely to not get robbed. So it's like this. It's always and also there is a level of like, it depends on how big is the the reward. Like how big is your chest? Like if you become a bigger pig, you need more layers of security, and because the risk reward will become different as you grow. Like if you're very tiny, some like small hackers will try to hack you. When you get very big, North Korea will try to hack you, and and you cannot fight. We are not yet able to bomb a country after they hack us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bernardo raised his hand.
Yeah. Well, hi. Thanks, Sebastian, for the presentation. Actually, thanks everyone. Before your presentation, Sebastian, it was like, as it's clear that AI is a very powerful tool, productivity tool. I was thinking, all my teams in general, they have senior developers, and now maybe I would have a chance of have less senior developers, right? But it seems that you just told us the opposite. So I was wondering why that's.
Well, I guess it depends on the industries, and I guess I think it's the you could make a great team with one senior developer with a lot of experience and 4 junior developers that help him to expand his capabilities of writing code, and you will be also training them. So I think maybe for some projects you could just need one senior developer that is enhanced, by AIs, and that a ton of the time rather than being spent into writing lines of code will be at architecture and design, and how this code is going to be scalable and easy to modify, and to maintain the entropy of a system low, so over the years you continue to be able to edit it and expand through the different changes of requirements that happen through the life of a project. I don't know if a junior developer with these tools, so it's definitely going to be able to write a lot of code. But then the danger of that is that a junior developer will be likely create a system that over time will be very hard to maintain, and will have pure architecture that may likely is not going to scale, or may not have choose the right libraries to make a great project. So I don't know. It seems that everybody is against my. I feel like everybody is in your camp. It's everybody thinks well, now I can have junior developers that are expanded by the AI. My gut feeling is that is not a good recipe for long term, for a project that is long term.
But because I was wondering, do you think it's about because if you ask the wrong questions, you're gonna do a lot of damage? Is that right? That's the perception I get.
Yeah, I think it's and it's gonna be very subtle. That the response may not be the best one. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because then we even have a lot more developers, and we will be writing a ton more code, and it's going to be a lot more productivity.
Yeah, because what I was saying is that there's a scarcity of talents, right? And now with the layoffs, a lot of stuff, we see a lot of junior devs being laid off. That's mostly what happens, right? And so that's could be the solution for a way bigger problem in the market, right? So that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, we'll see how it get resolved, but it is maybe that creates a lot more projects. Maybe there is a lot more funding and angel investment opportunities because that junior developers will go to make projects and they now are expanded into make more things. Don't know.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Sebastian, Marcos, Marcelo, João, the demos were incredible. Was here taking so many notes. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. To our live audience, thank you so much for participating, and to all of the participants in the room, thank you for coming and for being here with us until the end. We'll share the recording of the demos with everyone shortly after. So hopefully it's something that you can go back to and use it as you implement AI in your own companies. And we hope to see you for our next one.
Thank you.